How is the petition for Game of Thrones different from the Snyder Cut movement? Why isn't HBO even entertaining the idea of remaking Season 8?
No! God, please, no! No!
And will House of the Dragon somehow ease the pain for fans? Hi, I'm Dylan, and I drink and I know things. The divisiveness of the final season. Did you know that Game of Thrones' 8th season actually won the Outstanding Drama Series at the Emmys? Yet, despite being rewarded by critics and journalists for its swan song, fans veered in the opposite direction, with many being unhappy about how it all concluded. In fact, many were livid at how this epic fantasy series went from being the hottest property on TV to a mad rush speeding through the last 6 episodes. And that was probably the biggest complaint about it as well. It just felt way too rushed. It was strange how this was the final season of the show, but it also happened to be the shortest in the series. The subplots wrapped up in a hurried fashion, the emotional hooks weren't allowed to linger for more than a beat, and everything felt a little too last minute and slap bang put together in the end. Ultimately though, whether you straddled on the side of enjoying it or despised it, there's no doubt that it created more controversy than the franchise had ever seen before. It became a hotly debated topic as a chorus of fans demanded it be erased and redone. In fact, many did what everyone on the internet does when they disagree with something, and you know exactly what we're talking about here. Sign right there. Hashtag release the Snyder Cut. Hashtag bring back Tony Stark. Nowadays, fans have the opportunity to truly make their voices known and heard through social media and online platforms. And Game of Thrones wasn't exempt either, as a petition to remake the last season reached nearly 2 million signatures not too long after the finale. Sheesh. That's a lot of people demanding justice. However, HBO quickly shut down any possibilities of it happening by saying it understands the passion and enthusiasm that people have for the series, but there are zero plans for a do-over. But this was all before the Snyder Cut movement changed everything. Suddenly, people realized the power that petitions and fans have to influence their favorite shows and movies, including the ability to impact big boardroom decisions that used to be uncontestable in the past. This success of the Snyder Cut has only emboldened and mobilized the GOT fanbase. After all, if the Justice League fans could instigate a serious redo of their heroes on screen, why couldn't Game of Thrones supporters? So now there's a new push on the cards, with many believing they need to be louder and more demanding this time around. 2 years ago, it might have seemed impossible to get the execs to listen, but now a remake sounds more plausible than ever. Or does it? The creators cop to the mistakes. Ever since the noise about the petition started, David Benioff and Dan Weiss remained relatively diplomatic about the divisive fan reception. Until last year, that is. In the book Fire Cannot Kill a Dragon, an official history about the show, David admitted that there are things, not just in the final season but throughout, that he would have done differently. However, he declined from elaborating further. Dan agreed for the most part, and said that discussing their gripes would feel like they're blaming other people or even themselves for how things turned out. Needless to say, it's obvious from their responses that they too would have wanted a redo if given the opportunity. It makes sense as well, since Game of Thrones is the show that truly put them on the map and made them household names. The story of what went wrong with the last season, though, is still a tale that needs to be unraveled in the future, and it's likely that David and Dan can't give away too many details right now because of NDAs and other legalities. But considering their desire to do things a little differently, what are the chances of it actually happening? The answer, sadly, is highly unlikely, and we'll be discussing why next. The final season was actually successful. Like most things in life, internet outrage isn't always an accurate reflection of the real world. Most people use social media as their own personal soapbox and to vent, but they're far more chilled off screen.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
In terms of Game of Thrones, it seems like the majority of viewers didn't mind it as much as the internet has led us to believe they do. Apart from the awards and accolades handed out to it, the series finale actually set an all-time HBO ratings record of 13.6 million viewers. That's just the audience in the US and not even the rest of the world. That's something you can't sniff at, because those are the sort of numbers that's getting everyone bonuses at the end of the financial year.
One way or another, they always get their gold back.
What it goes to prove here is that even though there was a lot of noise about the declining quality of the show, the viewers were still turning up by the millions to see it. In a data-centric industry like Hollywood, the audience numbers are all that matter when all is said and done. Not the actual thoughts or legitimate criticisms, but there's also another substantial reason as to why a remake might be out of the question. Money, money, money. While Amazon's Lord of the Rings series is flexing hard and trying to become the most expensive TV show ever made, Game of Thrones was changing the culture ages ago. With each episode of the final season costing around $15 million to make, it was no cheap feat to make it all come together. So if a show cost a lot of money but made the advertisers money and brought in the viewers, what incentive is there to go back to the drawing board and redo it? Honestly, there's none. It'd be bad business. Unlike Justice League that hadn't pulled in the money it could've and still left too many loose threads up in the air, Game of Thrones has no reason to rewrite itself. And also remember, Justice League had the core of its story and film all shot and ready to be released. It just needed to be reworked. For GOT, it's more like a complete overhaul of the script and fresh reshoots. But no one's going to invest a ridiculous amount of cash to redo a single season. But perhaps more importantly, HBO has also moved on from Game of Thrones and on to the next big thing. House of the Dragon. It was inevitable, really. After the success of Game of Thrones, there was always going to be spin-offs and prequels. The one that's knee-deep in production right now is House of the Dragon, which takes place 300 years before GOT. And it's already bursting with a superstar cast featuring the likes of Matt Smith, Olivia Cooke, and Rhys Evans. Naturally, HBO's focus will be on making sure this show is a smash hit and as big as the previous entry in the franchise. As a result, there's no way it will try to dilute or take away focus from it. And this means the network won't be interested in hearing anything else about the final season of Game of Thrones. For the execs, it's done, dusted, and in the past where it belongs. Even though that isn't what fans would like to hear, HBO seems to be sticking to its guns here and plowing ahead with the future of the franchise rather than looking in the rearview mirror. But even if it did change its mind by some chance or miracle, there's another obstacle that might prove a bit too difficult to overcome. And it's probably the biggest reason why a do-over is unlikely to ever happen. The cast has moved on. Game of Thrones turned a lot of actors into household names. From the likes of Emilia Clarke to Kit Harington, it created a new host of superstars for Hollywood's production line. While they're all very appreciative of their time on the show, the actors have now moved on to other opportunities and franchises. Emilia, Kit, and Richard Madden have all joined the MCU, while Peter Dinklage will take up the lead role in the upcoming Toxic Avenger reboot. And that's just what a few of the main stars have been up to, as everyone else seems to be pretty busy as well. This is definitely good news for the cast, because every actor wants to book more work, but it's also a bad omen for fans hoping to see a remake of Season 8. You see, with the stars signing up for franchises like the MCU, it means they'll be incredibly busy for years to come. Those types of deals come with options for numerous movies, and the actors wouldn't be able to commit to doing the rigorous kind of shoots that would be required for Game of Thrones. So while maybe a few of them might be secretly holding on to hope for a remake, it might just be impossible to do under the circumstances. A glimmer of hope named George. Whatever you do, don't ask George R.R. Martin how far along he is with writing The Winds of Winter. He's getting annoyed by all the questions, even though this novel has been in the making for over a decade. Despite this, many fans believe he will right the wrongs of the final season through Winds of Winter, and the final installment of the series titled A Dream of Spring. It's still a long way to go until we get to see George's full vision of A Song of Fire and Ice released, if we ever do. But it's possible that if it deviates from the series drastically enough, someone might be inspired to finish off the Game of Thrones saga differently. Who knows? Instead of a remake of the final season, we could get a movie or short miniseries as an example. It's an interesting prospect, because it'd be far likelier and easier to organize the former cast for a film shoot than a full production of a season. In Hollywood, you can never say never. What you can say yes to right now is a hilarious video featuring epic Game of Thrones bloopers and funny moments. And don't be shy to let us know what other topics you'd like to see us cover in the future. In the meantime, like, share, and subscribe to the channel for some more awesome videos. Thanks for tuning in.